So far, about 60,000 Ukrainian refugees fleeing the war have applied to come to Canada under the special visitor visa program, but there are calls for Canada to act more quickly to bring more of those refugees to this country and provide them with housing and health services when they get here. There's also continuing criticism over the slow acceptance of Afghan refugees promised passage to this country and who are still waiting. Sean Fraser is Canada's Minister of Immigration. He joins me now from the foyer of the House of Commons this evening. Minister, good to see you again. I'll get to the challenges for Afghan refugees in a moment, but let's begin with efforts to get Ukrainian refugees to Canada. How many of those 60,000 applicants have arrived in this country so far, and what steps are you taking to get more of them here more quickly?
So let me just be specific in my answer here. The particular program that you're speaking about was launched 2 weeks ago to the day, and we declared at the time that it would have a 2-week processing period. So far, of the 60,000 plus that have applied, we've seen more than 12,000 approvals. Those approvals have just come in the last couple of days because there is a 2-week processing period. So we don't have numbers on the arrivals yet because these people would have just been authorized to come to Canada within the last couple of days. We do expect in the days and weeks ahead to see significant numbers of people arrive. I should point out, though, in addition to this particular program, there was the expedited process for the existing visas that were in place before this new program was created, and there was an additional 7,800 people that had been approved through that particular program. Between them and people who may have had the opportunity to come to Canada under a temporary or permanent residency status, we've seen more than 12,000 arrive since the beginning of the year, but the specific number on the program you mentioned will know more in the days and weeks ahead. Okay, fair enough.
There are growing calls to provide those people when they get here with housing and health care. Will you do that?
There's a number of different things that have been in the works for quite some time. In particular, I should point out that on Monday of this week, we announced we'd be extending settlement supports through the 500-plus settlement agencies across Canada. And that focuses more on things like language training, in some instances childcare.
And job searches and so on. What about housing and health care? That's what they say they really need.
So we're working on different options right now. On housing in particular, we're seeing an extraordinary amount of goodwill that there's an outpouring from communities. We're looking at the different options that the government might be able to assist with as well. We'll have more to say once we have an opportunity to figure out how to best coordinate some of those. Okay. We have seen on health, a number of provinces are starting to step out and say they're going to provide them. Quebec in particular was at the front of the pack. I've been having conversations about what role the federal government should have, what role the provincial government have with some of my provincial counterparts. You'll understand, I'm sure, that there's more than just my ministry involved with that. So we have to have a whole of government approach with both the federal and provincial level to see who's best placed to make contributions to which particular services.
One of the big challenges, of course, is transport. Lots of calls for you to, get out there, charter airplanes and start picking these people up in Europe and getting them back to Canada. What's the holdup?
So just to be clear, we are seeing a significant number of people are arriving in Canada, maybe not through the process that is just yielding approvals in the last couple of days, but more than 12,000 since the beginning of the year. On this specific issue of charter travel, one of the challenges that I'll point out that we're trying to wade through right now is the fact that when you're dealing with a normal refugee resettlement effort, you might have hundreds or thousands of people in one place who've already been approved for travel to Canada. In this circumstance, because we stood up a temporary visa process as quickly as possible, after people are approved to come to Canada, they're traveling wherever they can in Europe where they can find safety. We don't necessarily have hundreds or thousands of people sitting in a refugee camp, for example, next to an airstrip that we have access to. It's a really unique nuance to this that makes it more challenging. That said, we're going to continue to work with airlines and partners in the region to understand the best way to facilitate travel for people here, because it's our belief that your ability to take part in the program that's designed for humanitarian reasons shouldn't depend on your income level, for example.
Okay. Look, last night you were in Toronto for the arrival of a flight carrying 300 Afghan nationals, pushing the number of Afghan refugees who've come to Canada since last August. I think the number's up to 10,000 now. Your government promised to bring in 40,000. We saw 100 Afghan interpreters or so on who helped support the Canadian military in Afghanistan. They're holding a hunger strike on Parliament Hill, saying your government has been slow to bring over their loved ones. Why is it taking so long to get those refugees to Canada?
So first, let me just address the first portion of your question. It was extraordinary to be on site for the arrival of that cohort of Afghan refugees that does now bring the number to in excess of 10,000. To put that into perspective, I live in the town of New Glasgow, which has a population of a little less than 10,000. To see my entire hometown be comparable to the groups that we've come and given a second lease on life is extraordinary. And I saw families with kids the same age as my kids who are now going to live safely in Canada. On the specific group that you mentioned, we stood up in December a specific immigration stream that's designed specifically to welcome the extended families of previously resettled interpreters. The unique circumstances that make it challenging for the different individuals are unique on a case-by-case basis. For example, one of the challenges that we're seeing, even for the people who found a way to leave Afghanistan and made it into Pakistan, for example, they are now being required to have a valid Afghan passport in order to leave Pakistan. This is not a Government of Canada requirement that's getting in the way, and I think you can appreciate the difficulties of somebody who's facilitated the work of Canada or had their loved ones facilitate the work of Canada being in a tough position to actually get their hands on a valid Afghanistan passport when they have to engage with the Taliban. This characterizes the logistical difficulties that we've seen on Afghanistan from start to finish, but we're not going to waver on our commitment. We're going to continue to work with partners in the region to do what we can to advance these files. We've made a commitment to these families, and I intend to make good on that commitment.
All right. Immigration Minister Sean Fraser. Good of you to spend some time with us tonight, Minister. Good to see you again, and take care.
A pleasure as always. Thank you so much for having me.